When I started running over 10 years ago, I didn't realise the journey I'd embark on, but of course that journey hasn't always been plain sailing. Injuries strike at the worst time, but having now gone through over 3 years injury-free, I wanted to share with you what I think the 7 huge mistakes are that we make as runners that massively lead to injury. And yes, I've done these somewhere along the way. And of course, these 7 things are the things that have massively implicated me over the years, which ended up in injury, or very close to. If I missed anything off the list that you guys would like to add, make sure you drop a comment below. It'd be great to hear what your advice is for everyone else out there. Let's get into the list. Number 1, lack of proper fueling. This has been a massive Achilles heel for me for a long period of time before I nipped it in the bud. I used to think I was a bit of a warrior, bit of a hero for getting out the door fasted or having not had breakfast and get out there and do my runs. It's one thing doing easy runs early morning. They tend to be okay usually, but when you have a big hefty workout and you're doing it on an empty stomach, I can assure you it does not make you a hero or a warrior trying to complete it without any fuel on board. During that time period, I never particularly paid too much attention to what I ate the night before as well. If I'd had a good dinner, I could often just about get through the workout, but if I hadn't, I'd often start the workout, feel really bad, but continue to push through. And of course, what happens when we're feeling a bit empty, the tank is drained and we're trying to push hard, our form goes, we get a bit sloppy, we go maybe sometimes a little bit dizzy, and we just can't focus properly on the task at hand. I have come very close on multiple occasions and in fact injured myself twice in the past by doing this. My calf went and also my knee, and they knocked me out well. The knee was at least a week and the calf was well over 3 weeks. It's one of those things that since I started fueling on my workouts, I realized it's made such a difference. You're able to push properly, you're able to execute the workout in the way that you're meant to with the fuel on board. Your body is working more efficiently. And of course, the one thing, the side effect I used to find massively was I'd come home and absolutely binge eat for the rest of the day because I'd have absolutely emptied the tank. Again, that no longer happens, much more controlled after the run. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. Number 2, leaving it too late to get new footwear. This is an absolute disaster and again caused me major issues in the past. So back in the day, we're talking 6-7 years ago, I used to go through a lot of shoes in terms of ASICS shoes. We have an ASICS outlet shop very close to us. I used to wait until my shoes were dead. And how did I know they were dead? I'd get shin pains, ankle pains, knee pains, you name it, everything would hurt. By which point you go, I need to take a trip to the ASICS outlet shop. But you get a few more runs done, you get to the shop, you get the shoes, you lace them up, you get out there, and you still have pains. And I'd often find this would stay around for around about 2 or 3 weeks until things settled down again. So how did I combat that? I went to buy shoes before I needed them, and that's something that I started to learn and pick up on when these midsole foams started to go flat. Rather than take a shoe to 600, 700, 800 miles, I'd maybe start taking them to 300, 400, 500, and when I just started to notice the odd sign of it going flat and maybe just a tiny bit of an ache or pain, I go, right, it's time to swap the shoes out. And of course now, over the years, I've got more dialed in with that and I rotate the shoes a lot more. Now don't get me wrong, I'm very fortunate I do get running shoes sent to me these days, so it is no longer an issue for me. But I did learn that lesson out very quickly when these things started to span on for 4 or 5 weeks running in pain. It was not nice, it was not pleasant. Thankfully, it didn't lead to anything serious, but for that period, it was a really nasty thing. So tip, grab some shoes before you think you need them and keep them stashed away at home ready. Number 3, neglecting weaknesses in your body. This came to a head for me back in 2022, leading up to the London Marathon, where my back went for about the millionth time 5 days out from the race. Thankfully, my physio managed to patch me together enough to get to the finish line, but it was an absolute disaster. And guess what? I had a weakness in my chain. If you see my running form, you'll know it's not particularly perfect. I often suffer with a bad back. And what was my original solution? To spend a lot of money at an osteopath every month to help my back. But actually what I wasn't doing was sorting the root cause of the issue, which was the imbalances and weaknesses in my body. So I ended up going to a gym, got a PT for 8 weeks, learned a lot of stuff about my body, what exercises could help, what exercises could strengthen the areas that I really needed to work on. And of course then over the years I've incorporated those into my daily routine or weekly routine, whether it be mobility stuff, strength exercises, it doesn't matter. For me in particular, it's always core work and upper back. Those are the 2 areas that I really need to focus on. And of course the activations before my run are absolutely key. I sit at a desk all day, so getting those glutes fired up is really important. And since that moment, I get the odd back issue here and there, but it's nothing that's kept me out. Previously, I could be led up on the sofa for nearly a week. It was absolutely horrific, and these back pains would just never go away. They would come back way too frequently and ruin training and races. So since addressing those weaknesses, my running has absolutely changed for the better. And number 4, avoid at all costs doing hard leg days or strength work the day before a session in running. So I coach a lot of athletes, and it's great to see that a lot of them incorporate strength training into their routines. It's absolutely brilliant. And of course I do some bits and pieces here and there to keep myself nice and strong. But what I learned again very quickly is you avoid leg work the day before a session. That in particular, I'm focusing on that because I've done that before, where I've done a heavy leg session the day before a running session, and it is an absolute disaster. You are creating massive fatigue and of course damage to those muscle fibers where you're doing that strength work, and then you're going out and expecting your body to be able to run on strong legs for that session. It absolutely does not happen like that. I'm homing in specifically on this because I've heard so many injury stories. Thankfully, I've only done this twice and it didn't end up in injury, but I know so many people that suffer with this issue. It's about structuring that strength and conditioning and that gym plan around your running so that when you do a leg day, you have a nice easy day or two the day after to recover, and you certainly don't do them when you have a session the next day. You're just adding fatigue on top of fatigue, and it is a disaster. Number 5, too much intensity too close together is a recipe for disaster. So you often hear people, and I've done this, front load the week, back load the week because they have a busy first half or second half of the week. So they need to swap the plan around. And hey, guess what? I coach a lot of athletes, as I just mentioned, and we do often have to work things around family and jobs and everything. It is just the way that it is. I have to do it as well sometimes. But when you end up stacking session next to session, this again can lead to disaster. I've seen this happen so many times. It's happened to me once, and guess what? It ended up with a bit of a niggle that made me have to take the rest of the week off because I thought years ago that it was all right and I would just be a little bit more fatigued than normal. But actually, just like the gym sessions that we've talked about, doing strength work and then a session day, you're creating that fatigue, you're damaging the muscle fibers. They then need the time to repair. You can't then go out and then damage them some more by doing another session. So when you are front loading or back loading the week, again, it's absolutely fine, but you've just got to continually think about spacing those hard workouts out so that if you do want to front load the week, you get a sensible intensity. That's the real word here that we should be focusing on in that first period, and then putting the rest of it on the back end of the week. So just beware of that one. Number 6, poor sleep can come back to bite you. Again, it's bitten me so many times. I'm talking to you guys out there that have young families in particular. When you have young kids, getting a lot of sleep is often a mission impossible. But the thing is, these days we have a lot of gizmos and gadgets that tell us how our sleep's been, how we're feeling, if we're on the brink of illness, if we feel a little bit ropey. We can then avoid and change things up. So again, back in the day when my kids were younger, I used to be really stubborn and just continually push through and stick to the plan that I had, even if I'd had a really bad night's sleep. And it wouldn't have hurt one bit for me to swap an easy day with a session day and make sure that session was done on a day when I had a little bit more sleep. There are periods of time, especially with young families, when you aren't able to get a good sleep for a long period of time. But at that point, you just need to learn to start adapting, maybe make sessions slightly smaller, and appreciate it's just a small period of time in life. Once again, this is something that I have fallen foul of many times. And finally, number 7, probably the biggest of them all, and if you guys have followed the channel for more than a couple of years, you'll know that this is my biggest downfall and something that I categorically say I have now addressed, and that is running when you are sick. My old mantra was basically, if the symptoms were neck up, so it wasn't on my chest, then I would just go out there for an easy trot and see how I felt. That often works okay for me personally, but if it's neck down, or it's on my chest, then I used to avoid running. But of course, that doesn't really take into consideration viruses, because viruses might not attack the chest, but it might be all in your head, and you might feel like you can get out for a run, but trust me, it's a really bad idea. Flashback to last year when I was training for the London Marathon, I picked up a really serious virus at the end of January, where my resting heart rate overnight had bumped up from between 45 to 50 to 70, and then in the day, just walking around, I was 90, 100, which is another 20 beats a minute up from where I usually am. It was really bad, and because I was persistent and trained through it and determined to get to London Marathon that year, I really set myself back. And I can again categorically say it wasn't until the beginning of May when my heart rate finally dropped back to normal levels. It absolutely wiped me out for a good 4 months. But guess what? I was an idiot and persistently trained through it. I gave myself a bit of time off here and there when what should I have done when you guys were telling me I should have just pulled the plug on the block and just left it. The implications that then had is that I basically had to write off 4 months of really poor training and poor racing. I pulled out of about 3 or 4 races in the build up to London, just desperate to get to that start line. And in hindsight, it was one of the biggest regrets that I have. And as I said, since then, what have I done to change that? What have I done to adapt that? Well, if I start to feel a bit sick, I very much just taken my foot off the gas and even had precautionary days off where I'd never used to do it, because my mindset these days is very much a case of I want to get from January the 1st to December the 31st and log as many miles as I can and be as consistent as I can. And if that means taking days off in between to make sure I can stack up the miles and stack up the weeks and not have a detrimental effect to the future training, then that's exactly what I'll do. So I can appreciate the fact that back then it was an extremely frustrating thing to probably for you guys watch, but for me now I feel like I'm in a much better place, listen to my body a lot more, and again, this is probably the biggest one that I've learned. There we go, those are my 7 things that I feel have massively led to injuries in the past for me, but lessons learned, and we move and march on forward. I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments below what your thoughts are on this topic. Obviously there's plenty of things out there that can get us injured, but I wanted to share from personal experience what happened to me and what I've done to correct it. Moving on from that, if you're interested in seeing how I'm getting on with my current training, then do check out this video up here where I had a crack at a really fast workout, and do check out this video down here from London Marathon last year. I'll leave that one there so you can see what happened after I was ill and try to battle through. It was a bit of a mess. I'll let you go and watch that one, and I'll see you guys over on one of those.